This time on Barnyard Rivals, we save a set of small box Chevy Vortec cylinder heads from going to the junkyard and turn them into major horsepower gains.
What do we have here? Must be some hooligans.
Hey, wanna go for a ride in my square body?
Yeah.
So if you can cast your mind back to when we scored that Vortec small box Chevy 350 that we pulled out of a field, it also had a set of 906 Vortec cylinder heads on it. And the Vortec heads are arguably the best OEM cast heads that you can put on an engine. And I decided that we need to revive this set and put them on an engine. So we're magnifluxing this head here, and as you can see, we have a crack here, which this is a typical spot for them to crack, but then it also is cracked up here. Some of the dust didn't stay there, but if we had a light here, I'd be able to show you, but it actually cracks down in here and goes down. We're not sure how far it goes up, but from what I'm being told, this is pretty much just a solid wall. The only concern is if it splits, it'll go this way, end up in the by the exhaust valve, so we don't want to do that. So basically we're gonna drill this out, and we're gonna put a brass fitting in here to try to stop any coolant leak from coming through this coolant passage, and then we're also going to pin it here to stop the crack from any of that happening. So after that, should be good, and these heads are going to be usable, and we'll be telling you what this is going to be going on, because we changed some plans a little bit because I'm a goof. Next, we pulled out our press-in studs and cut down our stud bosses to upgrade to a screw-in stud. We're going to go with a 3/8 screw-in stud, and this is going to allow for a much higher lift cam. Next thing we did was cut down our guides. This is going to help us with our valve spring to be able to put a bigger valve spring in. That's also going to allow for a bigger lift cam. Next, of course, we honed our guides. This is going to allow for clearance for our actual valve through the cylinder head. It's kind of important to actually make sure that they're clearanced correctly so that when the valve actually heats and expands, that it won't bind up in the actual guide. After that, it got a little interesting because through conversations with Joe over at the machine shop, he actually showed me how to do a rough bull blend job. And this was the first time I ever did any sort of porting on a cylinder head, and we did it before the valve job specifically in case if I messed anything up. Usually all of your bull blend jobs and anything with porting your heads is usually done after the valve job, because you actually need to have your valves cut in order to know how much material you can take away from the cylinder head. But because it was my first time doing it, we decided that it was a better idea just to allow me to bull blend first, just so I got used to what it was actually like to do it. Then we actually cut our valves, and I went back in and fixed whatever the valve job misplaced, and then recorrected it, and we bull blended these cylinder heads. All right, now that we're done with the burr, I'm just going to go back through and polish them up with this guy real quick. Kind of smooths everything out, makes it nice.
Is bad. We don't want to post that. Yes,
No, it's a little out yet. So basically what you're saying is we're going to touch it up more and fix that.
We're going to fix it, yeah.
There you go. That's what it's all about.
Because someone will comment about that and how the concentricity's out.
Yep. But it's in industry standards, right? For our valves, I ended up buying brand new stock replacements just because the old ones were pretty rusty. The stock size valves in the small box Chevy Vortec heads is a 194 intake and a 150 exhaust. Then next, we fixed the crack in our coolant passage on our one cylinder head. Would actually fill up with coolant, right? Like the whole entire head, because the coolant flows over here. Those are all passages.
Everything is coolant. Any of these passages here are all coolant. Okay. So you could technically have coolant on the back side between these two things, and if it creeped up through the crack, then it could possibly come to the surface. But
the gasket's gonna seal that.
It's gonna completely seal it.
Okay. Cool.
We'll just grab the ones that you might actually use.
we'll have to fit them on and see how that, it's not gonna, well, mind you, it's not gonna actually fully see, but, oh, covers it up completely.
It completely covers it up. So
It's like it's not even there.
It is, and that's why I don't mind making that repair, because I don't ever see it coming back to bite you.
Yep.
We've took care of any issues that could possibly. This crack isn't going to go anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This crack.
It's just there. The only way it can go.
It could go down, but
yeah,
it's highly unlikely it'll travel that far.
Yeah. For at least the time that it's.
What I would tell you will happen is it's going to go down, and this casting line right here.
It'll probably split. No, well, won't it probably either hair off that way or the other way? But it's gonna be it.
Happen,
Okay. Cool. So they're gonna be usable. On this head, the intakes are done, and we have a little bit of hangover left. So, you hate the hangovers. They're not good. So, we're gonna take care of them by running them down a bit. I think, is that one done? Kind of ish. Oh no, that one's not done. That one's not done. The one that you did is the one middle one, right?
The one without the big lip.
Okay. Well, no, there's one here that looked like it was like half. Oh, I'm a moron. That's the one I started on. Okay, nope, we're good. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just being stupid. You let me do my thing. You can kind of see that shiny edge there. That's basically what we're getting rid of. Because when the air kind of comes out to go do into the other thing, that's kind of it's actually a really nasty lip. So after we got done finishing our bulb blend job and also fixing the crack on our one cylinder head, it was time to actually surface our cylinder heads. These Vortec cylinder heads originally from the factory, the 906s, were originally a 64cc chamber size. We ended up taking 15 thousandths off of the actual cylinder head, which is basically actually going to make the chamber size smaller, which is actually going to directly affect our compression. It's actually going to raise it, because the smaller you make your combustion chamber, the more what I like to call squeeze between the stroke of the piston coming up to the top of the cylinder. Basically, the smaller you make that area, the more compression you actually have. So roughly within taking 15 thousandths off, we went from the original 64cc chamber to a 62cc chamber, and that's going to raise our compression, which is also going to help us make a little more horsepower. So we got them both wiped down pretty good. I just used some brake cleaner with a rag. Usually keep wiping until the rag comes up clean. Half of this one's reasonably clean, so they're pretty much good and ready to go. We're going to tape off our guides and our studs and pretty much everything where all of our valve stuff's going to happen. We don't want to get any paint down in there. I do want to paint the edge of the rail though, so we are going to be like taping off a section of this. We're also going to tape off our intake and our exhaust ports, just because we really don't want to get any paint in there either. And obviously we don't have to worry about our deck surface because it is sitting on the cardboard, and I'm not going to remove it from the cardboard, so we'll let that sit on there, so none of that, none of the paint will get on our deck surface. But besides that, let's tape it up and then get ready to paint it. I don't remember fully. I know that when we painted the budget build 350, that video, we can actually link it up here if you want to go check that out. We brought it home. It was pretty crusty. We cleaned it up and painted it. I went out and bought VHT paint. The only problem is I can't remember, this can happens to be Chevy Orange Red. I can't remember if we painted that engine Chevy Orange or Chevy Orange Red, and this was sitting on the shelf, and I went to the store and I said, hey, I'm gonna buy another can of the opposite color, and I'm gonna test them both out to see which one it actually was. And funny story, I bought the can, I brought it home, and I bought a second can of the Chevy Orange Red. So we got two of them, so that's cool. I guess that's what color we're going with. And we also have a little bit of high heat primer. I didn't prime the I didn't spray any primer on the engine when we painted the engine, but we're here, and these heads, they're nice fresh bare metal, so let's throw some primer down on them too, just to kind of help it out. But let's tape this off and then we'll start spraying. So we got it all pretty much taped up, covered up, stuffed some rags in our intake ports and our exhaust ports here on the back. And then I had a piece of cardboard that I cut out that kind of fit in nicely so I could still paint the top valve cover rail there, because these are actually machined nice and flat. So I would like to get some paint on those, but didn't want to get too much into where everything goes down with our valve geometry and stuffs. But yeah, I guess at this point we're gonna blast it. Probably do 2 coats of primer, and then we'll douse it with probably 2 or 3 coats of the actual paint. Make sure it's actually gonna spray. Okay, it is. All right. Just do a nice light first coating on them. Yeah, we'll let that sit for a few minutes. So we got our 2 coats of primer on and it's set pretty good. It actually looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. I did check. I sprayed this this VHT red orange on a piece of cardboard and checked it against the color of the engine in the square body, and you know what? It looks it's okay. We're painting it. Yeah, that's what's happening. So we're gonna go with a nice light first coat again, and then like I said, I'm probably gonna do 3 coats on these.
You can tell just by looking at them now.
Yeah.
So yours
Okay.
are basically 100 thousandths bigger, and that wire.
So basically, well, because what does the actual retaining bring? Like, what does that even?
They
do?
call
Is
it
that-
damper.
Okay.
It helps to dampen like valve train harmonics and stuff. But I feel like it's like an old school thing.
Yeah.
A lot of them have got away from that anymore, and like you can buy a spring. If we bought you a Vortex specific spring, it's basically this spring without that in the middle.
Yep.
And instead of being $40, they're $120.
So you might as well just buy the old ones and take out the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you end up in the same place. So with this, you see we're 781 and you're 850.
So they
So
definitely wouldn't work. So
It's
you
an
gotta pull 'em out.
impossible mission.
Okay.
So
Eight to
one, we could have machined these to accept this, but that would be more money.
Yep.
Or we could have bought the Vortex specific springs, and
Which
that
also would have been more money, and the whole point was. to
Or
not
you take
spend
5
money.
minutes and pull these out of here.
And you call it a day. Did it work better with the needle noses or?
Oh, did I never give you this? Here. So
No,
once-
no, you never
Once
gave
you
us
get
the-
it out that far, you can just grab it with the here. Let me make you feel really bad now. So then you just grab this and twist it. Sorry, I brought them out, but apparently
You never gave them to me. You never mentioned anything about them either.
I forgot to hand them out. That's fine.
Yeah, cool. I still have one more, Joe.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. Where are you going? Bring it back.
Yeah, because all you got to do is work the one side out, and then you can.
Yeah.
grab it.
Yeah, you never gave it to me. I've been pulling them out with a screwdriver the whole time. Up next, it was time to put on our valve seals, springs, retainers, and locks. We ended up reusing the retainers and locks, and we also ended up reusing our 1.5 stamped steel rocker arms to help keep the cost down on the cylinder heads. At that point, it was time to check our coil bind on our valve springs. This ensures that the cam that we're using isn't going to bind up our valve spring coils.
Then we just continue to work through the rest of them. And we know we're good.
At this point, we assembled our cylinder heads by putting our valve springs and our retainers and locks on. After that, we actually put our Vortec cylinder heads on the engine that these heads are going to be going on and checked our piston to valve clearance, and we also got our push rod length. All of this plays more of a role in our engine build, but I figured it was important to mention that we did it in this video just to explain what we did, as those are actual crucial steps that are needed to be taken to ensure that our components and our engine, when it's all combined together, will actually work properly and allow the engine to run right and operate as it should without any issues. Now, I know that some people might actually make comments saying, well, you could have done this, or this differently. We could have put bigger valves in it. We could have put different springs in it. And we could have put roller rockers on it. And a bunch of other upgrades that you can actually do to these heads to make them perform even better. But a lot of it came down to just trying to be budget conscious and budget friendly. Mostly because the cylinder heads are actually be going on our budget build small box Chevy that you've seen on the channel before. And the whole idea is to try to keep it somewhat budget friendly. Now, a lot of people might argue, well, the price that it actually took to completely rebuild these heads, you could have had yourself into a set of aluminum heads, or you could have had a set of AFR Enforcer heads, and you could have just thrown them on the engine. And that's true. But the argument that I'd like to make is that these heads were professionally done at a machine shop. Also, with that being said too, all of the components that were used were actually good components. There's good guides in this. There's good valves in this. There's good valve springs in this. We honed the guides to a specific clearance. We actually cut the valve job and checked our valve concentricity and got it well within industry standards. All of those stuff are actually good components. When you buy some of these other aluminum cylinder heads that are a lot cheaper, like the AFR Enforcers, all of the valves, your valve springs, your retainers, your guides, all that stuff is cheap Chinese garbage in my opinion. And also, with that being said as well, a lot of the stuff that not a lot of people overlook, but those like guide clearances and stuff like that, that's not looked at when they're just banging them out at a factory. It's okay, we're going to bore the guide clearance to this size, or these components are going to be made to this standard quality, and basically we're just going to push them out the door, and you're going to buy them, you're going to bolt them to your head. And mind you, this engine could run for, 5 years, and then all of a sudden, the thing's not running right because it wiped out a set of guides, and in your head you're going, oh, well, they've been on the engine for 5 years, even though it's your hot rod and you've only drove it like 2,000 miles within the past, 5 years. So that's why I kind of think it's really important in conversations between me and Joe that it is kind of crucial. And honestly, let's be honest, the price of aluminum aftermarket heads is actually going up through the roof, and getting these aftermarket parts is getting harder because everything's on back order. And I think a popular trend that we're going to be seeing in the future is people returning to rebuilding cast cylinder heads. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted to put this video together. Plus, yet again, we got to save a set of cylinder heads from going to the boneyard and being crushed up and sent over to China to, produce your garbage aluminum cylinder heads. And there you have it. That is the complete buildup of our 906 small box Chevy Vortec cylinder heads. I just wanted to say this wasn't quite the video I wanted to bring to you. I wish it was a little bit more in depth, but unfortunately with time and everything, just didn't get all the pieces together that I actually wanted to get together for you guys. We do have another video coming up with another cast set of small box Chevy heads that I want to go a little bit more in depth with and maybe get a little bit more technical. This was just a quick little video to show you guys that we revived a set of small box Chevy Vortec cylinder heads. I have to give a big thank you to Joe for opening his doors and letting me come into the machine shop. He's taken a lot of time out of his schedule to help educate me and actually allow me to come into his own shop and actually be able to work on my own little projects. And it's been really, really awesome, and I really do appreciate it. So, Joe, thank you. We have a lot more awesome projects coming out of that shop with the help of Joe, so I'm super excited. And at this point, they are ready to basically get tossed on the engine. There's a few more things we got to do. The studs that actually screw in here, those are going to get a little bit of sealant on them just because they're coolant passages and whatnot, but that's all going to happen when they go on the motor. But they're done and they're ready to go on. So hope you did enjoy this video, and stay tuned because these are going on something, and it's going to be pretty good. "3 months to get this." Hi, dog. We got 3 months to get this square body Chevy ready to... Hi, bud. Hi, bud. Hi. Hi. Everybody meet Dante. You're a good boy, right? Yeah, good boy.